What's up? Pags here at MEI Studio. This time we're looking at a mic that seems to sit in an esteemed position, an instantly recognizable mic to most engineers, and often sought after for its mellow sound that can be molded to fit just about anything. We're looking at the Coles 4038, this time on the Mic Locker. It's getting harder to find a company that we haven't already looked at the history of, and today's subject is one that I've been wanting to do for quite a while, even though some of the personnel information is a little hard to come by. We start with a company that we've heard from before, Western Electric and Bell Telephone. Bell Company and Western Electric formed a company called the Bell Telephone Manufacturing Company, or BTMC, and opened a factory in Antwerp, Belgium in the early 1880s. They would sell American-designed telephones and exchanges to new British phone companies. Since the importing of some equipment was a little too cost-prohibitive, they purchased a failing cable company in North Woolwich in 1898, where manufacturing of cables and other goods brought over from their factory in Belgium would be done at significantly less cost. As radio began to take hold in the early 20th century, International Western Electric, as it was now known, supplied many of the devices needed for broadcast and receiving. In 1922, the company would move their manufacturing to a larger facility in New Southgate, and it was at this time they partnered with Marconi and other companies in the UK to form the British Broadcasting Company, later called the British Broadcasting Corporation, and finally the BBC. More on this later, as the branch off here is kind of important. In 1925, the manufacturing division of Western Electric was sold to ITT, or International Telephone and Telegraph. Shortly after, ITT reorganized its UK operation and renamed itself Standard Telephone and Cables, or STC. The company would produce all manner of telephone and telegraph equipment, including cables, radios, vacuum tubes, and microphones, amongst other products. With a need for broadcast equipment, the company started looking around to see what others were doing. The first microphones they produced were the popular Marconi Rice carbon microphones of the time that we saw in the Neumann video, as well as other microphones called the BT-H, which was a button-type carbon microphone. These mics would be the preferred types until the early 1930s, when STC released what is known as the Model 4017 microphone. This mic underwent a couple of modifications, releasing the 4017A and the 4017AC, which was later just renamed the 4017C. This was a moving coil microphone with exceptional performance for its time. Looking to further improve sound quality, though, the BBC continued to search for new and better equipment. The RCA company was demonstrating their new ribbon microphones in California in 1931, which the BBC took a liking to. However, the cost to purchase and import the goods was just way too high at the time. It was then that the BBC decided that it was going to manufacture their own microphones, and the BBC Type A microphone was born. A similar look to the RCA 44 microphone that we looked at in the WA 44 video. Around 1935, STC released their 4021 mic, affectionately known as the Apple and Biscuit mic. You can kind of see why. This was an omnidirectional moving coil mic that had some limited use in radio applications as a round table mic, but was mainly used as an ambient mic in chambers and as a talkback microphone. In 1937, the BBC developed their BBC Type B, which was much more conveniently sized than the Type A. This mic was used for sports commentary and other radio uses and led to the L1 lip microphone. And I'll go so far as to say that this mic had an influence on the 4104 lip microphone that came later on. In the 1940s, STC released an interesting microphone whose internals bear a striking resemblance to another mic we looked at not too long ago, the American DR330. The 4033A was a dual-element mic containing an omnidirectional capsule as well as a bidirectional ribbon, which could switch between the 3 pickup patterns that they would form: the moving coil dynamic omni, the bidirectional ribbon, or a cardioid pattern that combined the 2 elements. In 1953, the BBC developed a PGS microphone, which, if you had to point to the predecessor of today's subject, this would definitely be it. It's very similar in appearance. The PGS was a flat egg-shaped ribbon microphone. The PGS stands for pressure gradient single, speaking of the single magnet found in the ribbon motor. There were fiber plates installed on either side of the motor to help increase the resonance of treble frequencies. Since the mic had extended top end, the head of this mic could be moved to greater angles from its predecessors, which would cause significantly more drop-off in the high end, which could help with particularly sibilant speakers. Now, if you take this mic's body and this next experimental mic, the PGD, you can see the formula for the 4038. The PGD, or pressure gradient dual, which has 2 magnets, featured an indented center section which took the place of the fiber plates in the PGS. These mics were deemed too expensive to produce in mass, so STC took up the cause and produced the subject of today's video, the 4038. The 4038 featured a similar shape to the PGS and had indents on both sides of the mic, similar to the front of the PGD, which functionally replaced those fiber plates in the PGS. I know, it's a long story. This was a significant cost savings for manufacturing. The mic featured a toroidal transformer which significantly reduced EMF issues. And if you remember in our Alder H44 mic video, they too use toroidal transformers and are one of the only other companies I've actually seen do this. STC continued production of a wide number of microphones for the next few decades. In researching the Coles company, I kind of hit a brick wall with a lot of search queries coming back with garbage AI results that were either altogether wrong or misconstrued from existing information that was twisted and incorrectly regurgitated. Even some of my go-to sites and publications that have pretty extensive information were complete letdowns. I decided to reach out to the company and ask for some clarification on some points of the history for the company, and for once, I was not disappointed. The PR division of the company replied with very useful information and a historical document from which I was able to get just about all the information that I needed. So here's a look at the history of Coles Electroacoustics Limited. In 1964, 2 engineers from STC, Colin Beanland and Les Reynolds, formed a company in a garage with a single lathe and called themselves Coles. Colin and Les. Get it? They began by manufacturing whatever they could make a profit on. Within months, they outgrew their small shop and moved into a 400 square foot shop and took on a couple of employees. By 1969, the company had grown to the point of taking over some land in Hoddesdon, where they built a 2,000 square foot facility with plenty of room to grow if they needed to. And they needed to. In 1972, the company was approached by an aging STC and was offered the chance to produce acoustic equipment under license. Coles wound up taking on the staff and manufacturing equipment from STC for this task, and only a few years later, STC decided to call it quits for their branch of their business and sold the manufacturing and patent rights to Coles. STC would continue to sell off large divisions of their business, and in 1991, they sold the last of their holdings to Nortel, which marked the end of STC as we know it. Coles, however, continued to produce the products they had been in the same manner, using the same materials and machinery. The microphones were still being assembled and finished by hand, and are still being made to this day in the same manner. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The company also started making their own tools, doing their own injection molding and automating processes of their production, which allowed their company to stay competitive in the field. Today, the company has around 7 mics in their lineup, and along with a number of other accessories, sound pressure units, which kind of look like either a small speaker or dynamic capsule. actual speakers and floor boxes as well. The company provides products for some of the largest companies in the UK and around the world. Today, Colin, though semi-retired, still runs the company. Les unfortunately passed away a few years ago and had been retired from the company for some time before his passing. Now, onto our mic, the 4038. A bidirectional ribbon microphone that's about as heavy as a brick of similar size. Seriously, the weight on these mics is quite something. Coming in at a full 2 pounds, 6 ounces, or 1.08 kilograms. It's a heavy sucker. The mic still features a Western Electric 4069 connector that is recessed into the bottom half of the mic. This will accept the 4069 adapter if you're going to be suspending the mic from the suspension eyelets that go around the mic's body, or if you want to mount the mic to a stand, you can use the 4071 adapter, which has standard threading, or the 4072, which is a similar design but offers a little bit of shock resistance. If you want to suspend the mic, there's a shock mount, which is essentially some bungee cord connected to a bar with a threaded center. Since the mic itself swivels 360 degrees and the head basket can be adjusted 180 degrees, no matter which way you go, getting the head of this mic into the right position is kind of easier than it looks. There's also a rather pricey stereo bar available for the mic that connects the mic using the eyelets if you want to set the mic up in a Bloomline pattern. There's other ways to do that too, as we'll see soon. Around the bottom of the mic, there's a ring that looks like a little bit out of place since it doesn't sit flush with the rest of the mic. This is used to release whatever connector you decide to use to hook up the mic. This connector is extremely tight tolerance and fits the mic with little to no play. Again, this mic is heavy, and placing this on a cheap boom stand really isn't recommended. Spec-wise, the Coles sports one of the thinnest ribbons out there at just 0.6 microns thick. By comparison, AEA uses a ribbon around 1.8 microns, and Royer uses ribbons from anywhere between 2.5 and 4 microns thick. The polar pattern, as we've stated, is bidirectional, or figure 8. The frequency response is stated 30 Hz to 15K and is mostly flat with the mic rolling off around 10K or so. The impedance is 300 ohms and sensitivity is -65 dB. So we're going to want a decent mic pre to load this up that has plenty of gain. The RPQ or the SSL Pure drives we have in the studio here should work nicely. The mic comes in a plastic carrying case with a nice velvety bag and the 4071 adapter. Sound-wise, I know these mics are dark. I've used them before in other studios during the course of my career and felt that the mic on its own is simply a blank canvas. Since the frequency response is so flat, EQing these mics puts up no fight at all. And for those that want things brighter, while the specs say the response only goes up to 15K, you can squeeze a bit more out of it if you're not afraid of putting some really crazy high shelf EQs on them. And that's where I think these mics kind of shine, especially with drums. Having the harshness of the cymbals taken care of at the mic and then letting the EQ bring them back in to taste, it's kind of where it's at. Before we get the mics into the studio, I want to bring up one of the mics we're going to be comparing them to since I've seen a number of claims regarding them. A number of years ago, a company called Monoprice got into making different equipment other than TV mounts and cables. They now produce inexpensive guitars, amps, and even went into making some mics. One of the mics was an active ribbon microphone, which at the end of its life cycle was selling on their site for around $60. It originally was more than that, but when production ceased, they were trying to clear these things out, and you get it. I got these and didn't really think much of them at the time, except that they were kind of dark. I didn't really test them out for the most part, and put them away to do a video later about re-ribboning the mics to see if it would make the frequency response better. I never got to that, so into the closet they went until now. In researching the 4038, I began to see mentions of this mic pop up in a few locations that compared the sound of the LR100 to the 4038. I know they were both pretty dark mics, but, like, really? Well, I kind of want to put this to bed since I think some of those who made these claims didn't really do a one-to-one comparison with the Coles. Yeah, they're both dark, but, I don't know. These mics are kind of hard to come by now. I don't see a lot of them on the used market, but that being said, I do have a pair of them, and I have a pair of the Coles. So let's get these mics into the studio and put them against some other popular and some unpopular ribbons to get a taste of what they sound like. I'm not going to be using the same comparisons for each example since, for example, I wouldn't use my R88 on a guitar cabinet, and I can't get the same placement with that, and it just wouldn't make any sense. I'm trying to be practical with this, and I know not everyone will be pleased with this, but I think the comparisons make sense, and hey, it's free content. If you don't like it, let's go. Electric guitar still goes to the 121 if you don't want to do anything in post. Though these certainly give them a run for their money when you start molding them with EQ. On bass, they're the thickest of the thick. The bottom end is just all there, nothing rolled off in the bottom end at all. Piano, I really liked. It's a really cool dark noir sound, and it really kind of mellows out the piano quite a bit. Then we have the drums. I mean, what can you say? There's a reason these haven't changed in almost 70 years. While I wouldn't use them on vocals, you certainly could, but they'll probably need quite a bit of help. The weight counts against them in my opinion, as you do need some really good counterweight on a boom stand with a really sturdy bass. But the same goes for other more weighty ribbons like the RCA 44 and the AEA R88. Did you think there was a comparison between the monoprice mic and the 4038? To me, they kind of got close in certain applications, but the 4038 was a little more detailed than I thought the monoprice mic was. But honestly, for the price that the monoprice mic was, can't knock it. It still sounds pretty good. I will say one thing though, the monoprice mics that I have, I did have to retension the ribbons on them for them to work properly. When I got them, the ribbons were completely stretched out and kind of were buzzing when any low frequency would kind of come near the microphone. So using it on an upright bass sounded like this, which is completely unusable. But I was able to open the mics up, retension the ribbons, and they actually sound pretty decent now, which is what you heard during the demos. What are your thoughts on these mics? Is the sound worth the hefty price tag of usually over $3,000 for a pair of these? And are they worth all the hype they've gotten over the decades of use? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have any questions about this video or anything else, you can either hit me in the comments section or get me through the website. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for any videos, please let me know. If you've gotten anything from today's video, please consider hitting that like button. And if you'd like to help support the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you want to be notified when we drop a new video, hit the notify button as well. Doesn't always work, but it's worth a try. That's going to do it for this time. This is Pags, signing off. Importing of some equipment was a little too cost prohibitive. Why do I can't say that word. It was then that the BBD...